Support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications options. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatterspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Just a question of taste with you, well, you've gone sour. You want the world plus everything, but you won't work an hour. And now your questions are guilt creeping and you go and buy her flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy, I won't allow it. I said we're gonna fall out. Let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. Just shut your mouth.
And it's a big welcome to NUFC Matters, the professional, with Chelsea Rob dancing in the background because Chelsea have managed to win a spawny win at Fulham, 2-1. So he's obviously delighted. Mitch is sitting in his bar.
Hey,
Mitch, it's your fault, this. It's your fault.
It is my fault. I just finished telling them that Pedro Neto had no end product as the ball flies into the back of the bloody net. And I found a fan that's as schizophrenic as our fan base. He was calling them all sorts at half time, and then by the end he was dancing around like a lunatic.
That's the beauty of football. As usual, it is a weekend. There is Premier League action. And as usual, Man United fans aren't dancing around their kitchen. It's Man United 0. Wolves 1, the final score down there today. Fulham 1, Chelsea 2, as you've already heard. Arsenal with a fairly easy stroll at Ipswich, winning by 4-0. And with 35 minutes on the clock, Leicester 0, Liverpool 0 at this moment in time. Liverpool just needing 6 points now to win the Premier League title. Yes, we are, though, going to look at Newcastle's defeat yesterday at Aston Villa. Some great comments coming in early. Don't forget, you can make your comments if you're watching live on YouTube. Stephen Kennedy says, you can't knock the team. They've done so well, won us a cup. However, tactically, should we not have replaced Barnes at half-time with Kraft and gone 5-4-1 to eliminate all the pace that they were running into and to try and catch them over-committing, as it was obvious the Villa's tactics were to suck on us, then knock it long into acres of empty space. We were out-eddied by Emery, 5-0 to us on Saturday. Scott says, I think we need some pacey defenders so that we can't be caught out with the opposition running into the space with balls over the top. All of our centre-backs are too slow. Emery knew how we'd set up. Stephen Howe says, you can't keep going back to the well with the same bucket, and playing 3 games in 6 days with no rotation did catch up with us. Villa's got a stronger squad, an extra day's rest, made a few changes too. Scott says, we've got to sign some centre-backs with pace. We've got 3 tough games left and every team knows that we are slow at the back. Paul Charlton says, bad day at the Uppers chaps. It may be a blessing, focus in everyone's minds that there's still work to do. And Anthony Amos says, a strength and depth needs addressing in the summer. Villa sold Douglas Luiz and Diaby for PSR reasons and have reinvested and benefited. We will do the same, but keep our stars. Gary says, I thought the first half yesterday was 50-50. Second half, we looked leggy. Lots of wayward passes. These things happen. Still all to play for. Home game next. And Sparky D says, 3 games in a row. Gordon comes on by Murphy and Barnes moves to the right. Hasn't had any effect whatsoever in any game. And Benny wants to take the positives. He says, no sending offs. Was close a couple of times. No injuries. Hardest game out the way. Yes, harder than Arsenal away. João Pedro red means he's banned for Brighton when they play us. So positives all around there from Benny. So yeah, Mitch, look, it is a tough place to go. There were certainly goals. I went for a 3-2. The dice said 0-0. Most people predicted a win. But the caught us cold in 32 seconds, and we never really looked the same from then. And let's be fair, 4-1 probably flattered us to hit the upright. hit the bar, a collection of 3 times. Could have been 6 or 7. Newcastle didn't really create a great deal. And I just think that, that run was going to come to an end at some point, and no surprise really to see it come to an end at Villa. Just disappointing the way that it did, I guess.
Yeah, the results disappointing, but more so, I guess, in some respects, we're frustrated with the performance to a degree. But I think the valid points in what everybody said about, we've got a great first 11, but they had the luxury of making 5 changes from that midweek team and without really weakening the team. We can't do that. I think if you look at every team that's bested with this season, they've bypassed the midfield and exploited lack of pace at the centre of our defence. And I think if you look at every defeat we've had, that's been part of it. And that how not in the dugout. And Tyndall's been fantastic, but he's not the number one. I think if you wanted to compare tactical astuteness between Tyndall and Emery, it's probably, it's a light year gap. I think there's lots of things you can look at. But again, for me, it just comes back, like I said, going back to the well with the same players. 3 games in 6 days is 4 games in 12. It was always going to be the biggest mountain to climb, and we just couldn't. Even take away the early goal, it was going to be one of those days when Bruno, after 10 minutes, is running around snarling, snapping and kicking everything. And you're like, okay, it has that feel to it. We got level, but all we were really doing was hanging on. We didn't really do much beyond that. And then once we got behind, I think Villa were quite ruthless, really. And they need, praise for what they did and the way they were able to exploit weaknesses in that lineup. And the tiredness, I think. I know I've seen some of their fans trying to dismiss that, but I'm sorry. The quality that they've been able to bring into their team and rotate, that we just don't have. If we've made 5 changes, Tyndall would have been crucified. And what would the result have been? So I think, yes, a reality check in some ways, but we're still in the box seat. We've got points on the board. We're in a good position still. Focus on our home games in particular, put them away, and then we're still in control of everything.
Yeah, Stu, it was crashing back down to earth in spectacular style, which often happens, as somebody's already pointed out, after you go on one of these runs. But I think we can all accept that the three games in 6 days did catch up with us, and an unchanged team didn't do us any harm against Crystal Palace midweek. It's just it's levels, it's fitness, and coming up sometimes against a better team. And Aston Villa had to react after going out the Champions League. They need to qualify for Champions League again this season. They're the same boat as us. They need to qualify season after season to help with the PSR. We came up against a better team yesterday for me.
Just to clarify something, I haven't been fighting. Well, I have, but it was with a mosquito on one of my morning walks. And the eye now is actually a lot better than the picture I sent you yesterday, Mitch, isn't it? It's they're just saying, oh, that tastes nice. Let's have some more of that. So maybe it's the mosquitoes. Yeah, like Jaeger bombs as well. I don't know. So just in case anyone thinks I've been scrapping, I haven't. I'll leave that to the heat, which is another story which I'll keep off here. Straight after the game yesterday, I was like reluctantly tiptoeing through the cesspit of Twitter, and I thought, what it is? I'm not really bothered if people want to criticise us. I don't know them. I'm only bothered if it's someone who I know and hold in high opinion. Everyone else, it doesn't affect us. But I wanted to put my own personal opinion out, and that's what I believe that platform is for. So I wrote 2 things, Steve, so I'm going to have to get my other phone and read them out. And my opinion hasn't changed. First of all, it was time for a reality check. There was 3 points. First point, 15 points from the last 18. Who wouldn't have taken that before West Ham? We just got knocked out of Brighton in the Cup. Then we'd lost Gordon. Botman was out. Hall was out. And then, we're going to get thrashed off Liverpool. And I know I've talked about many times about overachieving until it becomes the norm. But who wouldn't have taken 15 points out of 18 at that stage? Anyone who says they expected 18 out of 18 is a liar. And it's true. The second point I made was, it's a game too far for some who have contributed fantastically to get us to where we are with 5 games to go. If you look at the low points of this season, we were heading towards mid-table, sometimes even the bottom half of the table. Yet we're still sitting third with that squad. So the Champions League's still in our hands. And we've got Ipswich at home next week. And then the next point I made was about differentials. Villa have game changers on their bench. We have those who can help see a game out. The fact that, I wrote this wrong, was all barring Forest beating Tottenham on Monday, would still go into next weekend third. But the likelihood is now I didn't see the Villa-Man City game on Tuesday. But we'll still be fourth. And the last time I checked, it's a Champions League space, isn't it? So if our goal is to get Champions League, we're still on target. And mentioning target, that's what I'm talking about, game changers. They can bring on the Rashfords, the Asensios. We're bringing on Matt Target. We're bringing on Kraft, who he's very dependable, but he's not there to win a game. They're there to see a game out if we've got the lead. And more often than not, over the last few months, we've had the lead, and we've been able to do that. And occasionally we'll get scalped. But when I start reading some of the comments, that person's rubbish, that person's rubbish, they might have been fantastic for 5 games in a row, 6 games in a row as we've won them. Each one of them have performed admirably. Yesterday, collectively, they didn't. And it's going to happen. If you go to work 6 days in a row, I would imagine one of those days you're not going to be on your best performance. That's not excusing them. It's explaining the situation. So if it was me, if I was Jason Tyndall, who is now in charge, nice to see that the manager's out of hospital, and of course we all wish him a speedy recovery. But I would say,
is he out of hospital, Stu? Because I've not
apparently
seen
got out yesterday. Apparently got out of hospital yesterday.
I've seen no official confirmation for that. That's all. That's the only reason I'm mentioning.
Well, if he's not, then I'll stand corrected. But my understanding is that he got out of hospital yesterday. Well, that doesn't. You know what they're like here with NHS? They'll throw you out with 2 broken legs as long as you've got a chair. So that doesn't mean he's recovered. But we don't know the seriousness of how bad the pneumonia was, and there's different stages of it. So hopefully he does make a quick recovery. Not because we want him back in the dugout, which we do, but for his own sake. He's given us so much, and the least we can do is give him the time to recover. But we sat on this panel last week, Steve, and said if we got 7 points out, the next 9 would be over the moon. Then reading what people were saying before Palace, after we dismantled Manchester United, it's just a poor Man United. They still have to be beat, and this country was a beat them, but before Palace, this is a banana skin. I could see us drawing this. We took them apart. We've given them the biggest thrashing they've had all season. And that's with the same players. So we're going to a team who, for me, the difference was they scored first. And that's something that doesn't normally happen against this Newcastle, the current Newcastle. And they had the crowd behind them. They had the wind up the sails. But more importantly, they knew that they were going to be on the pitch for 60 minutes. Like 4 or 5 of them knew they'd get 60 minutes and they'd get replaced with someone else with energy. Our players have to pace themselves. And if it's a game too far, it's a game too far. But if we look at the fixtures of the last 3 games, I think, I wouldn't say most people, but there'd be a strong number that would have said 5 points, 1 win, Man United, draw Palace, draw Villa. We would have took that. We're a point better off than that. We're still third as it stands. We're still fourth, even if Man City win on Tuesday. And we get Champions League for finishing 5th. So we'll have to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. So as I said, if I was Jason Tyndall, which I'm not, but what I would say to the players was, thank you so much for all your efforts over the last 6-7 games. Everything you've done collectively, all the efforts you've put in, thank you. You've went above and beyond. Now, come back on Wednesday. Don't come back in Monday morning with your tail between your legs. Go and enjoy some family time. Come back in on Wednesday. We'll review the last game. We'll plot what sort of team we're going to look for. Any niggles you want, come and get them fixed Monday, Tuesday if you wish to. But as a team, we'll come back in on Wednesday. Because anyone who goes to the gym regularly or exercises on a regular basis, they'll tell you The rest days are just as important as the exercise days. And 3 high-tempo games in the space of 6 days, we'll take it out of them. But we're going to have to get used to that, because as and when we get in the Champions League, that's going to be pretty much the norm next season. However, we won't have this squad next season. We'll have a stronger squad. We'll be able to add to it, because we've said it so many times. We've got a great starting 11. Who really could have made a difference yesterday off that bench? You'd say Gordon. And then if you look at the players who were out injured, of course you add Hall to that, and you'd add Botman to that. That gives us 13 players, first-team players. We've got squad players, but first-team players. And this is why, if you're in that starting 11 and you don't get rotated, you get dropped. Whereas Aston Villa, Man City can rotate players, and they understand, and it's for their betterment. For Newcastle, because they know that they're getting replaced by someone who is far less of ability, it makes a big difference, and that's where we are. So for me, with the comeback in, I would say come back in on Wednesday. I'm sure they won't, but I'd say come back on Wednesday and reassess. We've got 5 games to go. How many points realistically do we need? And then chalk them off as quickly as we possibly can. For me, when we were given the predictions out a few weeks back, I said 19 points out of the 30. And if we get those 19, I still believe we'll get the Champions League. Whether that's 5th, whether that's 4th, for me, hopefully 4th. For my bet, 4th and above, yes. But the promised land's there. And as I said, it's irrelevant whether we get 2nd or 5th. We got beat of Man City. Sorry, yeah, we did. We got our hands. We had no hands to play with away to Man City. But the same happened to Aston Villa. It's not often we get tanked away from home. Our most embarrassing stories this season have been at home. But we get in a position now and say, right, we'll win our home games. That gives us 9 points. Can we get a point at Brighton? Of course we can. Can we get a point at Arsenal? Yeah, we should be able to. We've proven that we can go there and win. We've got their number. That gives them a point to prove. But when you've only got a limited number, yeah, it's hard to ask them. If we've got a deeper squad, we would have qualified for the Champions League before now. In fact, we might even have been challenging for the title without getting excited. If we had another 3 or 4 players with the Tonali quality, Tino quality, etc. But we all know we've got a slow defence. But when I see an outcry on Twitter and things like that, after I put those tweets out, I switched my phone off and I went to my scratcher, because there's people, what do you think Newcastle United will win every single game they'll play? Where in history have they looked at that as a comparison and thought that's what we should do? Even the best teams lose games, and we're not yet the best team. And we haven't yet got the best squad, but we're getting there. And we're in the Champions League places, and we will stay there. We've got a game coming up that is more than winnable. Get the goal difference back up, and we have got a better goal difference than Forest. We have got a better goal difference than Villa. And we beat Chelsea at home, and that puts them out of it. So I don't understand the mass hysteria and the overreaction. We got beat. I don't like it. You don't like it. Mitch doesn't like it. But we got beat. It happens. But we've won far more than we've lost over the last few months. And when it comes to the business end, sometimes you've just got to say that's enough. We can't do any more today and see it out. We could have had a proper slacking. It could have been 7 or 8. It wasn't. We got 4. Aston Villa did to us what we did to Man United. Exactly the same. They overpowered us. They outfought us. And they scored more goals than us. That's it. But we win next week and everything's happy again. We shouldn't be so bipolar with the reactions. If someone had said to me at the start of the season we'd go in ahead of Man City with 5 games to go and we've won a cup, my good God, who wouldn't have accepted that? That's where we are. That's the reality check I wanted to put out.
Gary says, hi lads, a Man U win the Euro Cup. Does the 5th spot for Champions League go to them? Well, I did do something prior to the show. I do a bit of preparation just to make it a bit easier. So this is the confirmation here. Conference League, Newcastle EFL Cup winners. If Newcastle qualify for the Champions League or EL, the Conference League place goes to the highest placed team that hasn't reached Europe. But if Chelsea win the Conference League and finish in 6th, Newcastle finish in the top 5. And the FA Cup winners sit outside the top 6, there would be 3 teams in the Europa League and no Conference League place. As for the Europa League, 6th place and FA Cup winners. If the FA Cup winners also qualify for Europe by other means, and 3 of the 4 semi-finalists currently sit in the top 7, then the Europa League spot goes to the next highest placed team. There would be a 3rd Europa League place if Chelsea win the Conference League and don't finish top 5. And as for Champions League, the Premier League's earned a bonus 5th spot for the next season for having the best collective results this season across UEFA's competitions. Spurs or Manchester United would qualify if they win the Europa League. So there you go. It's about as clear as mud at times, but hope that answers your question. A question I need answered is, who on earth was this on Match of the Day? I know I wear glasses, but I'm not sure who that's supposed to be. Is it a fan? Is it a fan? So the front picture.
I've got no idea who that is.
The front picture was of Alexander Isak, but that was the person on the backdrop prior to the match kicking off.
Is that not Sean Neve?
I've got no idea who that is. If that's Sean Neve, he could walk past me in the street and I wouldn't know who it is.
Could be.
Good shout, mate, if it is. But it's Alex Murphy, according to Simon Rudd. Derek says, is it Neve? It's Adam Pearson, says Dean. Gary says Murphy, the defender. Answers on a postcard. Maybe
it was at Bowling. Murphy's at Bowling, isn't he?
I've got no idea who that is. If that's Sean Neve, then I'm not 100% sure why they've used him on the Match of the Day coverage, but there we go, they did. This guy as well, this is the Villa Watch on X. Very bitter, this guy. His tweets do tend to generate a lot of retweets from people. How to do it without selling your soul, he says. McGinn, Kamara and Tielemans, 2.5 million. Kamara, Joelinton, Tonali, 140 million. Honestly, if you want some interesting reading, get yourself onto that guy.
You can talk about that when they have to sell more stars for the balance that player saw. And I wagered to turn over something like 93% of it, which is ridiculous. So, glass houses and stones.
I think that Villa Watch is a Macam, is he not?
That's what Derek's just said. Yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens in the summer. Anyway, happy Easter to everybody out there. I celebrated, as everybody does, not with a lamb of pork, but a pizza. Bit of divine intervention there as I came to the final slice. So happy Easter to everybody out there. And our thoughts go to Mozza as well, who's had some sad news today. We're thinking of Mozza and Alan, who were in the background listening away, but thoughts with you at this sad time. And no Denise tonight in the chat either. She's out for a curry, apparently. So have a good time, Denise. Enjoy yourself. And
no excuse.
Have the hottest one. Chris, good evening. He says, what's the ideal result, lads, for us between Man City and Villa? I would have said a draw, Mitch.
No, Man City win.
I would ignore the result. We've got it's in our hands. It's our results that matter, not other ones around us.
Do you know what it's done as well? All this excitement and over the top reactions. They look at what happened yesterday, but the opposite side of that during the weekend, last weekend, we can catch Arsenal. Arsenal won the day and they've got a game midweek. They'll be 10 points ahead of us coming next Saturday, man. We're not going to catch Arsenal. Let's not even kill ourselves with that. For me, Man City, if you look at their running, they will accumulate points. So let us get third or fourth and keep Aston Villa down. We don't need it too congested because we do have tricky games coming up. Irrespective of some people who think I don't understand it. We've got an easier running. I don't see it. But ultimately, to answer that question, Man City win. And I really don't care if we finish third or fourth as long as we get the Champions League, which, again, I know people will say fifth counts. But if we finish third or fourth, we've had an absolutely excellent season, one of the best in our living lifetimes.
George Mitchell is right, says Benny. Alex Murphy, it is.
Well done, George.
They've Googled Murphy and they've got the wrong Murphy. That's what they've done. So that's a classic, that'll go on.
What's Murphy? Jacob Murphy. Hey, there he is.
What a classic. Oh, my God. There's Chelsea.
All the bloody hats are coming out now. Jesus. Win one game of football.
I took and come in. Okay, moving on to another question, and that is from Derek Sharp. He says, can we ask Stu Penman when the rematch is with Mozzie, the real deal Mosquito?
It'll be tomorrow morning, and I'll get beat again, and he'll bring his pals, and they'll have a go as well. So it's something I can't help. They just seem to. I'll get away with it occasionally. I don't know if it's the sun cream I use or whatever, and I've tried to change it. But where I walk, for those who see the pictures, it's always near water where mosquitoes live, and then they just see this big white lump walking past, and they go, "Well, that's unusual. Let's have a taste of that." And it's as if they wait for us. If anyone watched us or followed us around, thankfully I go early enough where there's not many people about, even in cars. Sometimes when I'm like this, like walking down the street, it looks like I'm having an epileptic fit, which isn't a good look, to be fair. But ultimately, I do enjoy it. It helps clear my head. I just don't enjoy the bites. And as you can see, it looks like a good old shiner, doesn't it? But it's not.
Alan Thompson says, you're spot on, Stu. We're certain of finishing the top 7 or above for the 3rd year in a row, and a trophy. Who would not have taken that 3 years ago? Well said. And Mark Irwin, I think he reiterates how I'm feeling. He says, honestly, for the first time in 50 years, I can relax, even when we get stuffed, safe in the knowledge it's not terminal like it was. Great point, Mark, and that's exactly how I feel. And Derek says, I got a bar of Dubai chocolate from a family member. It was 13 quid. I'm not eating it. I'm actually worshipping it. It's not that great, Derek. I've got to be honest. But
it's not. They read about it over here as well.
Yeah.
Every time I go over to Dubai, I get people, can you bring some chocolate back? I said, they sell chocolate here, but not Dubai chocolate. I think, yeah, let them crack on. I'll just bring them back and keep them happy, but it's not that nice. But we've been brought up on good stuff, haven't we?
Yeah,
with the Galaxy collections like Minstrels and stuff like that, and Cadbury's. So
yeah, we got beaten. We're still 3rd. Quality, says Anthony. Rub your heed with a lemon stew, says Steve Middlemas. And let's get another question in. Sutty, good evening. With Murphy having a good run in form of late, and a lot of fans have highlighted this, that we need a new right winger. Would you say we need an upgrade or an understudy to Murphy? I still think we need an upgrade. Mitch.
Upgrade. Let's be honest. You praise Murphy where it's due, and he really does deserve a lot, and he's done a hell of a lot. But it's still an upgrade, is what we're looking for. We need to be moving to the next level, and that means assessing what we've got on the pitch and saying where can we be better, where can we be consistently better, and where can we have points of difference. It's got to be an upgrade.
And same question to you, Stu, from your perspective, would you say an upgrade? I mean, I watched him boomer again yesterday for Brentford, 2 goals, I think it was, another assist. Obviously saw him a close hand at Newcastle recently as well. I mean, somebody like him would be fantastic for me. I'd love to see somebody like that come in. I think he'd fit into our style of play as well. But yeah, would you like to see an upgrade for him rather than just somebody coming in and...
I agree with Mitch, and you've answered the question. We certainly need an upgrade, and if we look at whatever happens, we've got European football next season. And saying that at the start of this season, you're guaranteed European football with, 8 or 9 games to go? We did it because we won a trophy. You need at least 2 quality players for every position, and we know it. The management team know it. Paul Mitchell knows it. And how can we not get them to? How can we, as a fan base, not trust the signings that they've made to date? I know they've been restricted on who they've been able to sign, but for me, Murphy, he's been anonymous for maybe 3 or 4 games, but then comes up with a cracking cross or a cracking goal. But he's not what we need if we're going to be consistently achieving. It doesn't help that he knows he has to play every game. Well, it might help him, but you need competition for every places. And if we were to sign him, as you suggested there, Steve, then yeah, because there's too many similarities for my liking to the purple patch Miggy had. And we all knew before that purple patch, he wasn't good enough to get us consistently in qualifying for Europe. He had his purple patch. Murphy's has lasted longer. and hopefully it continues till the end of the season and he picks up again, because he has dropped off a bit, but he does do a lot of work. But if you've got someone like Mbeumo there and Murphy's there to help him or challenge him or replace him occasionally, or the word rotate, which I touched on at the start, then it's Murphy can change a game with a passer across. The people who replace Murphy can't, and that's where we need to go. And that's why there has to be at least 4, possibly 5 top quality signings coming in. And if you remember, I said in our group on Friday, I picked something up from Tyndall's press conference when he was asked a question about Jacob Murphy. And all this Jacob Murphy for England, look, he's not better than Palmer. He's not nowhere near better than Saka, or Isaac, to be fair, but nowhere near better than Saka. And you could probably name another 2 players that are English that would be ahead of him in the queue. He's had a great season for his standards. He's overachieved massively, and he deserves it for his work ethic. But he's not the answer for us to be consistently challenging Europe year on year. But if we're playing European football next season, we're going to be playing 50-plus games, and you can't expect one person to do that. So even if we did get Mbeumo in, I'm just using him as an example, then you would still expect Murphy to play at least 15 games. So you have to share the load to get the optimum level performance out of them. And at the moment, it's hard to change a team. People have criticised them for not changing the team yesterday. Hello, Robert. They've criticised them for not changing the team yesterday. But if they had, there would have been an outcry as well. So this is what I like about how and Tyndall go about it. They don't listen to outside noise. They do what's best for them. But if you've got a squad deep enough, you can explain to the players, you're not going to be playing every game. We need your 100% best, not 85%, which is still better than whoever could replace you. And we need those game changers, and I'm sure they'll get them. So a long answer to your question, Murphy needs upgrading, but I'd still keep him in the squad.
Do we need another midfielder with pace, Mitch? Is a question that Steve Middlemas has asked.
Pace is something I think we need to add more of the squad, full stop. So in any position, somebody with pace is a healthy addition. It's difficult to shift our midfield 3 when we've got our formation set up. I think they all do very good roles, particularly with the emergence of Tonali and being able to sort of step up and read the game so well from where he's playing. That kind of frees Bruno up a little bit. It certainly lets Joe Linton just go and demolish everything, basically, when he's on form. But I think somebody in that area with pace, again, it's points of difference. I think that's what Willock used to bring when we used to bring him on, and that seems to have disappeared a little bit. He seems to have, the injuries seem to have blunted him a little bit. So yeah, I can see an argument for that totally.
Another midfielder with pace other than a right winger, Stu?
Good. Not just pace, they need to have the ability as well. You could put, I'm showing more age a bit, Linford, Christie, Rowland Wells in there. It doesn't mean they're going to do the job. But I understand the question that we can look a bit plodding like. But those 3 that we've got, we all know they're exceptional midfielders, and more often than not, recently they've clicked together. But the downside of that is they know they can have a bad game, and they still know they're better than who's in line to replace them at the moment. Whereas if they bring, yes, we need. I think more where we need pace to the current squad, it would be in defence, because that was brutally exposed yesterday. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a player with pace and ability, but it'd be nice if there was some suggestions. Who could we get? Because Tonali, for me, he's got everything. He's got the pace, he's got the vision, he can tackle, he can make a pass, he can shoot. So if you could get 3 Tonalis, then that's fantastic. We all know Bruno's not blessed with pace, but he has other attributes. And Joe Linton's not fast, but he has other attributes. So if we've got a midfielder that can have pace and ability, are they happy to sit at the bench? Or is it going to be explained to everyone come next season, look, you're not going to be playing every game, but you're all vital to us. and that's where we'll go. So if we get the person with pace who can pick a pass, can make a tackle, then of course it makes sense to do so.
Alan McKenzie says we need legs, a pacey right-sided central defender, a dynamic right winger, and a forward with pace that could either support or play across the front line. Legs, strength, imagination, and stamina. Alan Thompson is asking a question in the chat as well. You might see him on the fans forum tomorrow. He says, if somebody offered you 25 million for Murphy, I would sell him tomorrow. But if not, like you say, in the squad for his attitude, character, symbols, there is going to be a bit of that, though, isn't there, in the summer? We're going to have to brace ourselves, Mitch, probably for the onslaught on social media from fans wetting themselves about various players leaving. But like we've talked about Aston Villa earlier in the programme, they've sold key players and managed to invest in a bigger squad, which we saw yesterday.
We've got to get used to this sort of squad management that we haven't really had properly for a long time, if you ask me. And I'd still say that's what I think Mitchell was getting at when he came in about, being critical of the transfer policies. People will have to go out, and sometimes there'll be people we like and we might want to keep. But if in the long term it benefits the squad, it benefits the club, it benefits the PSR, we're going to have to accept it. It's as simple as that. And I think there'll come a time when some of the blue chip players have to be sacrificed, whether the manager feels they've run that course, or whether there's an offer that's too good to turn down on the table. It has to be discussed. And yeah, you're right. And something we discussed before we come on air about how Newcastle don't manage news very well, don't manage things like Eddie Howe's illness and getting things out, and it allows speculation to build, and it allows chit-chat and drama to build. And that would be part of this, the speculation, who's going, who's staying, and what they're going for and why. But it is something A, we'll have to brace ourselves a little bit for. But B, it's just part of PSR, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is part of PSR, and somebody saying they're golden link with Liverpool again. I mean, we've never had this issue before in the past where players have moved on, but now I think we've just got to accept that players moving on will result in other players coming in, Stu, and we will continue to build. That's just part and parcel of being a big club.
Yeah, we can all live in a utopian lifestyle where we keep whoever we want and get rid of whoever we want. But I reckon the blue chip players will not get sold. The original question that was asked, would I take 25 million for Murphy? Absolutely, I would. Because the way the PSR works, we could invest a lot more back into the squad than 25 million. But who is going to pay 25 million for a 30-year-old Jacob Murphy? And at the same time, the fact that we're talking about Jacob Murphy with 25 million, people were trying to give him away 6 months ago. Didn't want him anywhere near the team, didn't want him any other squad. So that shows how much improvement he's made. It shows how much the coach and staff have worked with him. But I'd rather have a 50 or 60 million pound Mbeumo in front of him and a 25 million pounds worth of Murphy waiting to run stupidly for 15 minutes or playing the cup games or the league games that we should be able to do enough with. I don't think we need to sell blue chip players. I don't think we will sell any blue chip players. Aston Villa did it because I know Mitch just mentioned it before, without going into great detail, they've massively overspent and had to get to the position that they're in. But they did have a bigger squad depth than what we've got now anyway. So would us selling a Tonali or selling an Isak, would that actually be a step forward? No, because those two, Isak and Tonali, in their positions are genuinely world class. Name one Aston Villa player who is genuinely world class. They've just got a group of players who are all much of a muchness, but are all above average. And that's why they can interchange and rotate them, as simple as that, as they do. And they're all buying into each other. They all come with their own different specialities. And there's no one that you could go out and buy to replace what Isak does. There's no one that we could buy that would replace what Tonali does. But we could replace the right back. We could replace the right winger. We could replace the right side centre midfielder. Centre half. Well, I would imagine the vast majority of Newcastle fans, if there was a straw poll and said, pick 5 positions you want to upgrade this summer, you'd probably get 90% plus in agreement. So 25 million for Murphy, yeah, of course I would, because we could then go to spend 50 million pound on 2 players. So it's that's how it works, unfortunately. But we can't have wholesale changes, and this again goes back to the frustration from yesterday when people are, we got beat, we got stuff. What do they want me to do? Not mid-season, come the end of the season. The transfer window is shut. Unless you've just landed from another planet and thought, oh, Newcastle are really, really good, let's go and buy a player. You either have no conception of the rules or understanding of them, or you're just doing it for clickbait. And that's sad if you're a real Newcastle fan and you want to criticise your team publicly. Because for me, I applauded when they finished yesterday. I applauded because they finished yesterday, not for what they did yesterday because they were crap and they deserved to get beat, but for what they've done to get in that position. And I know the 3 of us and many people watching have watched a lot worse Newcastle teams than what we've got currently. We are blessed with what we've got at the moment. And we keep harking back onto our golden era, not George's, which was the 50s, or other people who've seen the Cup win in 69. Our golden era for us was the Keegan era, when he took us from the old 2nd division up to 3rd in the Premier League in 2 seasons. That was our golden era. That was the entertainers. And then it carried on. We won nothing. Look at this golden era that the next generation have got. They're going to come in for the next 10, 15, 20 years, only know successfully Newcastle United. So they'll get beat occasionally. They'll get embarrassed occasionally. Arsenal get embarrassed occasionally. Villa get embarrassed occasionally. Look at Villa's goal difference. Before yesterday, it was +3. After 32 games, it was +3. So they're not that much better than us, are they? And they've got the bigger squad. We've got the better players. All we need to do is add to those better players, keep who we want, and shed who we can. And we're going to get better. So, yes, there's defeat. It hurts. Every defeat hurts, but it doesn't bother us that much, to be honest, because of where we are. If it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and that defeat put us one step closer to relegation again, then of course it's going to hurt, because then you can say there wasn't the effort there. There's a lot of things you can say about these players. Just because they didn't play well doesn't mean they weren't trying. And that's what we ask for. We only want a team that tries. Well, we are blessed currently with a team that tries, and they've got an abundance of talent, and they'll win far more than they'll lose. And this team will get Champions League football. So take 25 million for Murphy, and if you know someone who's going to offer it, then put it on the table. I understand it's a hypothetical question, but absolutely I'd take 25 million for Murphy. But until then, a 25 million pound understudy is good enough if we upgrade him, which we will.
I'd keep them all and bring back Matt Ritchie and Chris Wood. We're going to have an ad break. Here we go.
Big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel, UK Coach Holidays. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And if you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can find us on Sport Social Podcast Network. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to support the channel, then hit the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the like button, which is the thumb underneath this video, and click share to your social media. You could also take out a monthly membership or an annual membership at nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. For the lifetime membership, you can pay £25 and get a pen, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, a badge and a keyring and your membership card and entry into the monthly draw. Some events coming up: 27th of June 2025, the end of season party. Beresford, Howie and Watson will be at the Tyneside Irish Centre with Joe Allen in aid of North Tyneside Age UK. You can get your tickets for that one from nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk or from Woucher. No Covers takes place at the Clooney. That's on the 29th of June, midday till 3:45, and tickets are £10 from theclooney.com or newcastlelegends.com. Northern Horizon, a Blake 7 convention, takes place on the 9th of August, 10 till 4 at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Come and be some of the cast and crew in aid of Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. Tickets from nufcmatters.co.uk. An evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place on Friday the 23rd of January 2026 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. You can get tickets from the box office 0844 249 1000 or from tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And Bad Manners are back in the Northeast at the O2 City Hall, Friday the 30th of January 2026. Tickets from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainer's book, signed by Les Ferdinand, available from nufcmatters.co.uk.
Okay, welcome back to the Professionals this Sunday evening. 286 watching on YouTube, 500 watching on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, jump onto YouTube and search NUFC Matters and hit the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week. Mitch, you can toot and come in now. And
I've decided if you cannot beat them, join them.
It's a classic.
It's a fair old way to go home, It's a fair old way home.
Exactly.
For those of you who are just tuning in, Stu...
I'm glad you got it before you made it in denial.
Stu's internet's a little bit ropey there, so you got a slight delay there when you're commenting, mate. Anyway, he's having internet battles out there. There has been a bite on his face though, which is he hasn't been fighting. But Aidan is giving some mosquito news. He says, Stu, you can get a mosquito repellent rather than a spray or rest band. I live in mosquito heaven here in Estonia, and I can say these repellents work. So there you are, some advice coming in, Stu, for you.
Thank you, Aidan. Appreciate that.
And Wilson is the latest topic of conversation in the chat. Lots of people commenting on Wilson. Blue Rhythm Boy started it by saying, do you think Wilson will get an extension, in your opinions? Not what you would do, but do you think the club will give him an extension? Sutty says, I found it disappointing. Wilson's performed when he's come on the pitch. There's no denying on his day he was good for us, but I think come the summer it's time to move him on. And one other comment on Wilson from Derek Sharp. He says that he feels that Wilson is now a championship player at best. The Wilson story is petering out, I feel, Mitch, which is sad because he has been a great servant. He's stuck on 40. Is it 49 as well for Newcastle? He can't get that elusive 50, but he does seem as if he's running through treacle a little bit at the minute, unfortunately.
He's been a superb servant, he really has. And he's at the point now where I think everything's catching up with him. For me, he just doesn't have that edge. He doesn't seem to have that sharpness at all, which is frustrating, and it must be frustrating him. I know he's well liked by the manager and everybody at the club. The sentiment doesn't have any part in this for me, and I keep coming back to something I've said time and again. The biggest predictor of future injury for an elite group athlete is previous injury. And getting to the bottom of all of that for him is always going to be imperative, and I don't think anybody's been able to get to the bottom of that. And so going forward, will he be more likely to suffer some of these at times quite unusual muscular injuries, which then he seems to take forever to come back from. And when he does come back, sometimes he comes back too quickly because he says he feels ready to go and he breaks down again. So that's a gamble, and it's a gamble we've made now for 2 years. It's a gamble we've had on the table for 2 years, and I think it's fair to say it hasn't paid off. And so it's a very big decision to make. Personally, I think it's time for him to be ruthless about it. But if he could be kept in a tertiary role with somebody else behind Isaac, and he accepted that that's what his position was, and was a pay per play type contract, but do I think he'd be ready to accept that? I don't think so. When I think his agent will probably be able to get better deals from other clubs, be that in the Premiership or the Championship, and that's kind of what at the end of the day, he's got a right to see his career out and earn what he can from the short career. And so if we can play a part in helping that, and say thank you very much and goes with grace and happiness, then all well and good.
Callum Wilson, been a great servant, hasn't he, Stu? But it's certainly looking as if Father Time's catching up with him a little bit.
Steve, do you know what it's reminding us of? It's like watching a championship boxer past his best, but he still believes he's still got it and there's one more fight in it and he can deliver. And it's sad to watch because I don't like the phrase good servant because they get paid good money to do what they do. But he has been very good for us, as and when he's been able to play. But going back to the original question, would I give him a contract extension? We can get nostalgic and say, yeah, we can keep him as cover, etc. Because people said he'd never kick a ball again for us, remember, November, December. And he's available, he's fit, he's available. But especially in the forward position, that extra yard, that half yard makes a huge difference, especially at the top level. And it's sad to say that he hasn't got it. Would I extend his contract? Well, the way PSR played and other people bend the rules, I'll extend it by a year, then flog him to a Saudi team and get 15 million from him or something like that, just to get some money in. He deserves a payoff. And in his time, he was a clinical finisher and he scored some crucial goals for us, but his time's now passed, unfortunately, and sometimes we've got to be hard-nosed like that and to be able to say that. So the only reason I'd give him an extension would be to sell him. But in the break there, I got a message from Mr. Robbie One Punch, and I'll read it out to you. I'll take the swearing out, expletives out. Go on, lad, get them effing telt. We've won 20 out of the last 25 games. What the F do people want? And I won't mention the rest of it because there's more swear words than that. But if you get the gist of it, this is where we are. The greatest teams in sport lose games. Whether that be the Michael Jordan-inspired Chicago Bulls, the Barcelona team with the Messis, Xavis, etc., and Iniestas, they get beat. So we've got beat. And we'll get beat again, and we'll get beat again, and we'll get beat again. But we're in a far more privileged position now than we've been for decades. And we've got a forward-thinking ownership who have enough wealth to back us as much as we're able to do so. But I can wax lyrical about this and go on different tangents. But with Callum Wilson, his time's done. But then that gets back to a question you asked a couple of weeks ago, who do we sign? Because we can't, if we're talking about leaving Murphy as the only right winger, as he has been for half the season, then you can't leave Isak as the only striker, because anyone tells me Isak's 100% fit, I won't believe them. And he's doing as much as he can without getting injured, if that makes sense. So he's going about his business, but he'll do it in spurts rather than consistently. And that's because there's no genuine cover. But I still think, being the old romantic that I am, that Callum Wilson will get his 50th goal in the next 5 games, and it will be an important one for us. And then he'll go with everyone's blessings, he should anyway. But hopefully for me, he likes Dubai. And we've talked. Oh, well, especially Mitch. He's talked for probably 2 years now about ligaments and hamstrings and muscle injuries, and a lot of that can be caused with the cold weather and not being fully warm. Give him his payoff. Allow him to get his payoff, whether that be Saudi, whether that be Dubai. He knows he's not going to get back in the England squad, and he's maybe he needs to start looking after himself and securing his family's future. Not that it's not already, but put more money in the coffers. And me, for one, I wouldn't begrudge him that. So if I'm given an extension, it's not to have him in the team next season or in the squad next season. It's to try and recoup some money for it. That's the only reason I'll give him an extension.
Lots of chat from different people. Steve Hasty's in the chat tonight. He says, as part of our development, Howe needs to develop a squad that can adapt to a variety of formations. That requires world-class players with football intelligence and experience. Davey Eddy says, interesting that Paul Mitchell brought in Matthias Cunha at RB Leipzig for 12.5 million, which, lots of rumours flying around about him at the minute. Getting back to PSR, Chris said Villa bought Duran for 16 million and sold him for 64 million a year or so later. We paid similar for Asula, which some people suggesting that might be something that we would look at. And,
if someone had 64 million for Asula, I tell you, it would be a rabbit up there.
And Chris has also said, I saw a great tweet yesterday. Last season, we beat Villa 11-2 on aggregate. It didn't derail them. So let's not let a 4-1 loss derail us, which is a good way of looking at it. We do encourage people to send us messages via other social media networks. You can send it on Facebook or on Twitter, of course. And we do have an email address, which is nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. And this was a comment or a question, sent in from Phil Scott. He says, badly written question, so he rewrote it. Sorry, Steve, it's more about always thinking of strengthening first team options. Is this the same as strengthening the squad? Do we need more first team players or better options? Game time, this is part of the offer attraction. Can't afford everything, so strategy. He's basically saying, are we in this transfer window? Because his question got more complicated the second time round than the first time round. But I got your gist, Phil. He's basically trying to say, Mitch, should we be buying players who are going to start and play every game, or should we be buying people who maybe are quite happy to sit on the bench? That's the question that Phil was trying to ask. Squad players or players? I mean, for me, we need 2 11s, Mitch.
I think the concept that somebody's starting every game is now old-fashioned. I don't think that's something that you can genuinely promise every player all of the time. And I think players know that. What you can promise them is opportunity. And that if you play well, you will get your opportunity. And if you continue to play well, you will keep your place. Look at Harvey Barnes keeping Gordon out. Who would have thought that 2 or 3 months ago? And so I think that's something we do very well. I think we offer opportunity. We offer opportunity to be winners now. I think there's a lot of positives we can offer players to come in. I think anybody that you sign is a squad player. But we need more depth beyond what we have at the minute as a first 11. That's quite clear. And I think the word I would use for this coming transfer window is transformational. That's the kind of window I believe we need. And I think Eddie deserves, because we've had nothing for 3 windows. And I think if there's an opportunity to make this window transformational in a positive way,
Lost Mitch there. Internet's not too.
Then we. Sorry, Steve.
Well, you're back now, mate. We never got any of that because you're.
I'm back.
Yeah, you're back now.
All right. Okay. What was I saying? I was saying about what this window's going to be transformational in terms of bringing people in to put on 4 fronts and fight on 4 fronts, and I think they'll deserve that. And again, you can see what Villa have managed to do in terms of improving their depth. would you say some of the players that started against us was squad players or first team players? It's very difficult to know between the two 11s that started against PSG and then against us. So that's what we need to be aiming at. There's a blueprint for.
As you can tell by Chelsea, Rob, Liverpool have scored. Stu, should we be looking at should we be looking at squad players, Stu?
No, we should be looking at people who can start in the first 11. If we can buy 4 people who start in the first 11, that makes the squad stronger anyway, because you can only start 11. And that's where we need to target. We don't want more people and I've seen a comment there, like we need a team for Europe and a team for the league. You can do it, you can get away with that, as Chelsea did if you've got the Conference Cup league. But the Europa or especially the Champions League, you need best players. And what you need is where there's an understanding. And we've got a manager who can put this across and he can sell it anything. I'm sure he's a fantastic salesperson because they all buy into his ethic, where we don't have a starting 11. We've got a starting 16, 17, 18, and they can rotate. And as much as every player says they want to play all the time, they want to play in the big games. But if we've got, for example, I don't know, pick a team. Let's say Burnley get promoted. We've got Burnley away on a Monday night. You don't mind setting that one out if that means that you're playing at home to Liverpool on the Saturday and then away to Barcelona on the following Tuesday. So we have to be able to have a team that can compete on all fronts, because if not, we're going to be a yo-yo team, and that's Europe one year, miss out the next, Europe one year, miss out the next. So the workload needs to be shared, and we've got, same as everyone else, we've got to score a 25, so the workload can be shared. What you need to do is make sure the quality of that 25 is better. More importantly, the quality of, I would say, 17, 18 players are all first-team starters. And I think I said at the start of the show, we've got the 11 that started yesterday. But if we had a Hall fit, if we had a Botman fit, if we had Gordon back in full fitness, then people wouldn't look at it like they've been dropped. They understand they've been rotated for the greater good. And that's where we need to be now, or not now, but going into the next season, where they understand you're the captain, you're the striker, but you're not going to be playing every game. We'll play enough games to get maximum output from you. But if you play every game, you're not going to be playing at your best. And we're seeing it on a smaller scale with Isaac. I know I've just touched on it there, but he's not fit. But you've got to have Isaac at 80% is better than the Wilson at 100% at the moment, and he's better than Asula at 100%. And that's where we are. But if people are mentioning Cunha or Mbemo, as you mentioned before, Steve, they can both play in that role. And then you can rest someone like Isaac, give him less minutes, so his workload shared about a bit, and then we're getting him up there at the optimum level, which will only benefit us as a team. But we can't just bring in 11 players to sit on the bench. The whole project has to be sold. But I think sometimes we give players not enough credit, or we don't give them enough credit. They understand now it's a squad game, especially at the top end. If you look at Liverpool, Arsenal, not so much Arsenal because they try to play a steady 11, but Liverpool, Manchester City, Aston Villa, as we've referenced quite a lot today, their players know that it's a collective, it's not about individuals. And that's why I believe Eddie Howe could sell that to just about anybody, come be part of what we're going to achieve together. And if you looked at the celebrations after Wembley, if you looked at the celebrations at the Town Moor, it was a collectiveness. And if we have more quality in that collectiveness, we can go anywhere we want to be. And I just want to say, because I should have mentioned it the day after, or the programme after Wembley, I did say that where I got my ticket from, I managed to sneak into the section Mitch was, and because everyone was standing up, Mitch put half his foot in the walkway, and I sneaked in a bit. But what was so nice was there's a guy I went to school with called John Ingram. I hadn't seen him for what's got to be 30 plus years, and he's seen me and Mitch. And remember Mitch, and when afterwards scored, he come running up and hugged us as if he'd been with us all weekend. So apologies, John, I didn't give you a shout out. It was great to see you. And seeing things like that with his dad, him and his dad celebrating together, this is what this team's achieving. And if improving the squad with the quality rather than quantity, we'll have more days like that. And that's what we all want. But we still have days like yesterday. But they'll get less and less and less as our success grows. And there has to be an acceptance of that. Not that's it, we're rubbish. Or we're going to win everything. We'll catch Arsenal. We could have beat Liverpool if we'd, you can point your finger at anything. That, for me, Fulham, just say that word, Fulham, they beat us home and away. Add 6 points to where we are now. Is the rest of the season that bad? It's not. We're that close from being where we want to be, and people sometimes don't realise it. So, yeah, bring in the quality. We need quality, top quality. It doesn't weaken the squad if Bruno's injured or if Joe Linton's suspended or, God forbid, Tonali's injured or Isak's injured. Our defence have managed it mostly admirably with Botman being out. We've seen Hall being injured. Who would have thought Livramento would have stepped up to the plate? But we have to remember that Trippier's been excellent, but he can't do 3 games a week. He's 34. But this is where we need to start improving. So four quality players in, beef up the top quality of the squad, and we'll still need people to buffer up the rest of the squad for worst case scenarios. But absolutely, we need quality. We don't need squad members. We've got them already. We need top quality people who are capable of starting every game, and it doesn't weaken us.
Bill's question, do we really need to be in Brighton mode, bring them in young and sell on? I personally don't think that's the PIF strategy. The PIF idea, in my opinion, will be to bring in talented kids for our future, which I think is right. I mean, that's what they are doing. They are signing youngsters. They're already in the lead for the Spanish youngster, Madero, coming in hopefully before, just at the end of the season.
Yeah, that seems to be the way they want to go. Mind you, I think if PIF had a totally free hand, they'd just say him and really well wanted. There's just things play us off. But that's another matter. They've got to play by the rules, and they hate to play by the rules, and I think you've got to respect that. And I don't think PIF get enough respect for that from some places. I think we've almost gone into a sort of a hybrid model whereby we will try and sign young talent, and if good offer comes in, we let them go move on and look at that side of things. But we don't have to pay money going the way that Brentford and Brighton have. We don't have to do that. But I think Stu's quite right when he says, I think what you want is 3 or 4 players come in who, if they have to, can play every single game. It would be difficult not to have any games on the team sheet, because I think that just improves our quality all around. And I think the squad would be welcome to that. I think that's something we forget, is that the way the squad mentality that we have is exceptional, and that's part of what Eddie Howe's team installed in everybody. That it's an us and a we, not an I, and I think that really is something you forget at times.
Yeah, Bill's making a good point, I guess, Stu. It's and we have been signing youngsters. We've signed a multitude of youngsters from Ireland, Australia, from other parts of Europe. It has been a natural thing over the course of the last few years. People are saying, well, we spent 20 million on that young, and why aren't we spending it for the first team? But they are certainly looking at improving that youth side. And there's been a decent little run for the under-21s as well. Some of these players are starting to flourish, I guess.
I don't think we should follow the Brighton model, because their model is bring players in and sell them on at a profit. If we bring players in, it's to get them cheaper than what we would if we waited 2 or 3 years, because they will benefit the first team squad. And if we've got a better first team squad, that's when you can start selling, without naming names, people who aren't making the first 11 or the first 15 on a regular basis for a higher value. And that's what Man City have done. And they've been caught out a couple of times, but that's what Chelsea used to do, or still do. If you look at round the leagues, German league, Italian league, even the Premier League, it's scattered with ex-Chelsea players, because they can't take it, but they'll make profit out of them. And unfortunately, with the way the regulations are, that seems to be the way to go. But our priority is to get ourselves established in that top 4, top 5, top 6 year on year. And that makes us more attractive. But also to show that if a youngster does sign for us, there is a pathway to success, whether that's with us or they get the opportunity to go elsewhere. Man City are doing the same. You know, you've got the lad Delap at Ipswich, and very cleverly his agents managed to get a contract clause put in where he's worth a certain figure if he's relegated or a certain figure if he's not. And it's given him game time, it's put in the shop window, and probably hasn't been enough for Ipswich, but without them, they would have been down a long time ago. So do we bring that type of player in and bring them on, bring them in for, like, for example, if someone said, I could take it back, I think it was Alan's question, would I take 25 million for Murphy? I answered that question. But if someone said, we'll give you 30 million for Asula, who would say no? And that's the sort of route we need to go down, because the current regime, the current management team inherited an aging squad, and they've done, for me, miraculous work with what they've had, and they've added very, very astutely. They've targeted the areas they need to get, and they've got the best player available to come in and fill that position. But if we're getting Champions League on a regular basis, then more people want to be part of it. And they'll come in thinking, right, you guys, you're going to win maybe one trophy a year. Look at Man City as they have been. You know, if you sign for Man City, you're not going to be starting every game. But you know you're going to be part of a squad that's going to win 2 trophies a season. And you're going to get 20, 30, 40, 50 games a season. Well, maybe it's not 50, 20, 30, 40 games a season. And you feel part of that squad. But I'd like to see another squad in that league that's got a better unity and a better togetherness than us. Because we, irrespective of where we are, we have massively overachieved with what we've got. And there will be days like yesterday, which highlights, that put us back in our box a bit. But for every day like yesterday, just go back 3 days before it, go back 3 days before that, we overachieved more than we actually find our level. Because our level's not third in the league. Our squad's not good enough to be third in the league. Our squad is lopsided. We've got 4 to 5, well, I would say 4 top quality players. We've got maybe 3 or 4 players with huge potential who are performing really well. If you put Hall and Livramento and the like into that bracket. After that, we've got fillers, if that makes sense. We've got people who can come into the team and do a role to help the others do the best of their ability. And we've got the basis of one of the best 11 start 11s in the league. We proved that in the cup final. We can go toe-to-toe for everyone. We focus, that's the game we need to win, and we can put everything into it and win it. We did that in the semi-final. We've done that in the final. We've got 5, I don't like this cliche, 5 finals to go. We haven't. We've just got to get enough points to get in the top and get them as quick as we can. Because I wouldn't mind Everton, everyone on the beach. You know what would be fantastic? Would have been Everton. We've already qualified for the Champions League, and no one give Pickford abuse. Everyone take a newspaper to the game, and when he turns to look at the crowd for a reaction because he loves it, just put the newspaper up. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Because we've already qualified for the Champions League, and we have to stop wanting everything now, like the spoiled child. Because PAF would give us everything now, but if they did and it was allowed to, we wouldn't have what we've got now. Because there would have been so much chaos. There would have been so many journeymen, so many mercenaries coming into our squad just to get the extra money. We wouldn't have got to where we've got. So now we've got to where we've got. Now is the time to add. And it's always best to add in a position of strength. And we won a cup. We'll qualify for Europe, whichever format. Hopefully it'll be the Champions League. That's when we add. And that makes us a more attractive proposition. And we'll have to shed some skin. There will be people that'll go that people will have affinity to. They don't want to go. But I assure you, it won't be the Tenolis or Isaacs. It won't be them. It might be a trip. Yeah, everyone says, I've seen the comment there, give him an extra contract. What? So we can abuse him next year. Look at this 35-year-old. He's too slow. He's doing this. Give him an extra contract if he wants to stay. If he's willing to understand, he will be an understudy and he'll only play if and when required. You won't be challenging for the first team place, but you can help the young lads that we're bringing in. Then fine. Sell him on that idea. And if not, like Wilson, thank you so much for everything you've done for us. you come with us at a time when not many would, and you've probably been, for that first 18 months, the best right back I've seen play for Newcastle United. But we can't keep hanging on to the past. We've got to go forward. And 35-year-old Trippier playing 40, 50 games next season, it's not going to get us Champions League, as much as I think he's been fantastic. So that's where we need to be good, Steve.
Okay, lots of chat about transfers. We'll have a whole summer of that, so we'll move on from that. Sutty says, would you risk Botman back in the squad, even if he was on the bench? Tyndall said in the press conference he's ahead of schedule. Back on grass, back training, could be involved against Ipswich. Mitch, I wouldn't expect he'd be straight in, but he'd be a handy sub to have if he's fully fit.
Yeah. Shaw didn't look too clever when he came off, mate. So it might be a situation where if he's fit, he's ready to go, they've got to take a chance. What worries me is a couple of times with him, we've not handled his injury situation very well, in my opinion. And he's brave enough and daft enough to play on when probably he shouldn't. But if he's available, I think it will be a refreshing change. Because when he did come back, he was critical to things like, the Arsenal results. And I think, we need that little bit of something extra going into the last few games. To have him on the bench would be a luxury. And certainly, if that doesn't carry risk, or it carries minimal risk, it's worth it, in my opinion.
Stu, Botman, would you play him at the weekend against Ipswich?
It's quite hard to focus when Mitch keeps breaking up. It's quite intermittent, and then I start staring at that duck on the wall behind him, and I imagine it's the duck speaking, not Mitch. So that's why I keep smirking. Regarding Botman, he's the best centre-half we've got at the club by a country mile when he's fully fit. But would you bring him back and start against Ipswich to bed him in? Only if his performance would merit it. Is he going to be performing better than Burn or Shaw? On yesterday's performance, you'd say yes, but the previous 5, 6, 7 performances, you'd say no. And the last thing we need is from a breakdown again. If he's 100% fit, then you can, as Eddie Howe normally does, he blends him in slowly, doesn't he? Treat him like a brand new signing, because if he's going to replace anyone in the centre of defence, it'll be Shaw, not Botman. Not Burn. So give him 20 minutes or 30 minutes if we're 3-4-0 up against Ipswich, because he may well be needed come the end of the season, because you can't rely on Shaw and Burn to remain fit and at the top of the game, because not just because of the age, but because of the effort they've put in. For the most of it, they've been outstanding and above and beyond. Yeah, occasionally they get caught out like yesterday, but the whole team did, and it's wrong to single people out. But going into next season, Steve, for me, the centre-half pairing is Botman plus another, and that's the decisions that need to be made. Are you getting rid of someone like Shaw, who I've seen being branded as a legend this week, and then all of a sudden he had a dodgy few moments yesterday and he needs to be gone? Or someone like Byrne, who's now all of a sudden slow and sluggish when everyone was saying they should be building a statue for him a month ago. That's the disparities we've got in the fan base. But taking the emotion out of it, Botman for me starts next season plus another centre-half. Would I bring him in against Ipswich? If he's 100% ready, I still wouldn't bring him in. I would blend him in, because you throw him into a game saying, right, you've got 90 minutes, mate. He's too much of an asset for me to risk like that. Give him 30 minutes against them. Give him a bit less against Brighton, depending on the result. Then you can start playing them against Chelsea at home. Give them 2 or 3 games to get into the run of things. We hear it all the time. They've got to get match fit. It's all right being physically fit. You've got to get match fit. And we can't afford to put people in who aren't match fit from the start. So you pick your fittest 3 players. And if Botman is fitter than the other 2, he's not match fit, the other 2 are. So I would start them in front of him next week. But by the end of the season, if the season had another 20 games to go, for sure, he'd be in the team. Because I think sometimes people forget when they're injured. They either forget how good they are, or people start thinking they're better than what they were. We've seen it before when Willock was injured early this season. Oh, if Willock was back, he's fantastic, he's this, he's that, and now all of a sudden he is back, oh, he's not good enough. But someone like Botman is class, and if he's retained that ability and the way he reads the game, he wasn't described as a Rolls Royce by most of us and challenged to be one of our better players, like centre halves in history, people putting him up there with Woodgate, etc. Botman for me is a must for next season, but I would not start him against Ipswich unless it was absolutely necessary, and even then it would come with a caution.
Okay, last question before we wrap up tonight. It's just a quick one on the CEO. Have you heard anything on anyone coming in as a replacement for Eales? I've read in the past week about someone from Manchester United, and do you think all the big decisions will be announced at the Everton game, says George? I mean, it's Colette Roche, Roach, who's been linked with Newcastle. It was a report in the Daily Mail that Manchester United's chief operating officer had applied for the CEO role at Newcastle United. Is that somebody that we would entertain, Mitch? Do you think? I don't know a great deal about her.
She's been at Man United a long time and comes with interesting, for me, political links and links that might be useful when we're talking about new grounds and making relationships with councils, etc. But as for whether they're going to announce everything at Everton, I just don't know. Against Everton, rather, I just don't know. I think we just have to wait and they'll announce when they announce. In terms of her coming in, it would be a step up for her. But obviously she sees that as a challenge she would like to take on. And in terms of what she's been able to do at Man United, I think in some respects the new owners or when the Glazers came in, I think they've hamstrung her a little bit on occasion. She's one of these ones where the intentions have been there, but the ability to deliver it has been taken away by with her things around her. But I think with all the decisions like this, I think end of the season, and I think really after the end of the season from a perspective.
Okay, Leicester City are relegated back to the Championship. Liverpool winning by 1-0. Trent Alexander-Arnold making the difference. Hard-fought game that for Liverpool, who are now 3 points away from winning the Premier League. Yes, Stu, Colette Roach coming to Newcastle as a potential CEO. Obviously, it's paper talk. It's Daily Mail paper talk. Do you think that's something which would benefit the club? Maybe it's another female figurehead as well. That crossed my mind after Amanda's gone. There's that kind of female touch.
Makes me smile though, doesn't it? Coming from Manchester United, C. Roach. So you can fill in the different words there different letters to make a word. But if we are to get a CEO or CEO or whichever acronym we want to get from any of the other 19 clubs, Manchester United would probably be the one that would want to take something good from. And whether we like them or not, and I think collectively the answer is not, they are a commercial monster. So just because on the field they're flunking, you've got to look behind the scenes and how can they keep generating money. There will be secrets, there will be strategies there that we could take and implement. And it just shows you that they want to jump ship there. And I won't mention, I'm just about to mention rats jumping in a deserted ship, etc. But or sinking ship. I know that our ownership does not want to deal with Manchester United in any favourable terms because of what happened with our sporting director or ex-sporting director. And that's why there was no Man United players signed for Saudi's clubs last summer, last winter, and more than likely this summer as well. They won't do them any favours whatsoever. But if we can take something out of them that's good, and it's quite interesting that it seems to be that Miss Roach is keen to come to Newcastle. That tells you who's on the up and who's on the off, who's on the down. It could also be the fact that as a back member of staff, she'll still get free food at Newcastle because they don't give them at Manchester United anymore because she's not part of the starting 11. So she might just be coming to get a free scran every week. Maybe she gets Craig's vouchers or something, and that clinches the deal. But we wouldn't and I say this speaking on behalf of the owners, which I don't, but knowing how the Saudis operate, they wouldn't take them just to spite them. They would only take them if whoever it was, if they were good enough and they could improve Newcastle United. And if she is, to coin a phrase used often by Simon Jordan, best in class, then it's something that we would be interested in. So I don't know enough about the lady, but the fact is, the reference I used there was commercial monster, Manchester United, and she could bring
fantastic
so much. What, sorry?
What a fantastic phrase.
Thank you. But she could, we could use her intellectual ability and steal it, in effect, use it, give her a contract for a year or two, because whoever goes into that job for the first year will want to do as much as they can to impress, and she'll put all her cards on the table. So I'm not against it in the slightest. Do I know if she's coming or not? Absolutely not. I have no idea. But if she's good enough, we'll want her, because we'll want someone from any other club who's good enough to improve our club. And that's how they are, very matter of fact. By the way, we'll beat Ipswich 4-0 on Saturday.
Great stuff. Great show as always. That one's dedicated to Mozza's mother. Thinking of your Mozza. And
Alan, all the best.
Yeah, all the best. Back tomorrow, 6 o'clock. And will be the fans forum. I'm sure that'll be lively and depressing with Darren. Anyway, take care, have a good night, and happy Easter.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.